evening and welcome again to the Marty Heiser Show. We are very, very excited about what's going to happen tonight. First of all, the Danbury Whalers hockey team are winning 2-0 at the end of the first period. So if you're, I don't think they're on TV, so there's no competition there. There's really not a lot else to watch on TV except the Marty Heiser Show, and we've got an incredible show tonight. You just saw the head, a rather intelligent, smart head of David Stevenson, and he's joining us, of course, the host of Progressive Soup and another show about a cat. Which, if you've ever had a friend and you kind of wonder, they're close to the edge, they seem like they're on a bit of a short thread, and when they host a show featuring a cat, they've gone over to the other side. But nonetheless, he's here and he's going to be giving us the progressive view of things on politics. Now, before you notice it, car sales are up. Unemployment is down. The Republicans are kind of messing up on this whole payroll tax thing, and President Barack Obama is creeping up in the polls. The aforementioned David Stevenson will be here, and he'll be pleased about those numbers, I think, as we look at politics locally, statewide, and which I like best, on a federal level. We're going to be talking about the Republican primary out in the Hawkeye Caucus, which are so important. Choosing a Republican candidate, just ask President Huckabee. But we'll see. We have another member of this board. We have on the little tagline Dave Straight. He's a very intelligent guy, businessman, so he comes with his perspective. But most importantly, the smartest man in the room, the man who is a college professor, Jim Bolano, is joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. David Stevenson.
That's some introduction.
I salute thee. Thank you so much. David Straight is here.
On the far right?
On the far right, no better place for you. And as we speak,
I feel very comfortable here, Marty.
There is an Ivy League grad, hopefully with the pink tie, Larry Ditkoff, who has not only promised to be on the show, but he's talked about it in emails all the past month.
When he comes on with the pink tie, our Nielsen ratings skyrocket. Everybody tunes in, so we're hoping he gets here.
Okay, so first of all, let's get a close-up of the cover of Newsweek magazine. We have the audacity of one Newt Gingrich. There he is. No better name for a politician than Newt. There he is. He was going way up in the polls. Then everyone found out he had 3 wives, 3 religions, and he worked for Fannie and Freddie, and he kind of took a bit of a nosedive. And Mitt Romney said, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. But, Professor, where are we going with the Republican primary in Iowa, and does it really matter?
My opinion is Iowa doesn't matter that much. I mean, there's a lot of hype. We've been watching this primary as if it was the general election throughout the summer. We've seen people rise and fall. And historically, Iowa doesn't really matter that much. You mentioned
President
Huckabee.
He came out of
President
Iowa.
Dole.
Exactly, President Dole.
So again, I think if you look back historically, if you take out the incumbents who weren't typically challenged in Iowa, Bush 41, Reagan in 84, I think only 3 presidential candidates have won Iowa and then gone on to the presidency: Carter, Bush, W, and Obama.
And Obama. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, those
Obama,
are the 3.
I mean, he put all his chips on Iowa.
Yeah.
He got people out to those caucuses.
Right.
I've seen the video of it.
But then he turned around and lost New Hampshire. Remember, Hillary had her moment, and the voice cracked, and then she took New Hampshire. So, the first 2 primaries, you get a lot of hype, spend a lot of money, but at the end of the day,
isn't some people say that you really want to? You don't necessarily have to win Iowa, but you got to either get the gold medal, the silver, or the bronze. If you're in 4th place or below, it could be curtains for you.
I think that's true because win, place, or show, it's a matter of money. That's the mother's milk in these primaries. And if you don't do a good showing and follow it up with something in New Hampshire, the money's going to dry up.
All right, caller, are you here for the show? Good. Thanks so much for calling. Hold on. What's your question?
Question is, first of all, Marty, great cast tonight. I want to see Larry there. I got the boys watching.
Where is Larry Ditkoff? I want to put out an APB.
Tie.
Okay. What do you call one of those like alerts, like Lindsay alert? Missing
Amber
child,
alert?
Amber alert. We have an Amber alert
For a missing child?
Larry Ditkoff. He is an Ivy League grad. He drives kind of an older Honda Civic, but he does have very nice ties. So if you see Larry Ditkoff, send him over to the studio, 5 Shelter Rock Road. But thanks for calling. And by the way, the number here, we'll put it up on the screen, is 203-438-2003. Please call in and join us. But what question do you have for our august panel?
Marty, here's the question. Nobody's talking about Ron Paul. I like the guy. I like his principles. Is he electable? And quite frankly, I'd like to hear the answer from the left Dave and from the right Dave as well.
The left and the right Dave. We do. That's a good question. Just caller, if you would. Do you know where he stands right now in the Rasmussen polls in Iowa? I think it's pretty impressive.
I don't know. I know his numbers were rising, Marty, but I haven't seen him in the last few days, so no, I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Let me ask the right Dave as opposed to left Dave.
So the thing
not
is,
to pigeonhole you, but
so
what's up with Ron Paul?
I wake up this morning and I'm listening to a far left-leaning Democrat,
Right.
and he's attacking Ron Paul. And I think to myself, why is the far left attacking Ron Paul?
Right.
If he's so unelectable, wouldn't he be the best candidate to run against Obama? Shouldn't they try and support him if he's so far out of the mainstream that he's so unelectable? And the reality is, the left and the liberals are dying for the Republicans to get Mitt Romney on board as the Republican nominee because he's so unelectable and so readily beatable. Obama could beat Mitt Romney hands down. Ron Paul, on the other hand, has principles that everybody else, when they hear them, they think, wow, never thought about that one quite like that, but that kind of makes sense.
Give me 2 of his top 5 principles that people would want. I know a few, but go ahead.
Cancel foreign aid.
Okay.
Interesting concept.
Is it true we give foreign aid to China?
I can't confirm that one.
It is.
I do know that up through January, we were giving foreign aid to Libya before we decided that Muammar Gaddafi was a bad guy.
Okay.
And, actually, switching gears for a second, the show that's on right before ours on Cablevision is John Hartwell's show.
Really?
Yeah, so he has the half hour before us. And guess what he was talking about on the show Wednesday night? He was talking about how he's opposed to rendition and how the Patriot Act was wrong. And it's everything that Obama is still supporting. So Obama is still, in the campaign he was against rendition. Now he signed into law, it's okay. We heard last week that the House, the Senate, and the White House all signed into law, a new law that says that you can now drag an American out of their home without a search warrant, no habeas corpus, no rights, intern them indefinitely without a trial. That's now the new law in America.
Yeah, we actually have a photograph up there of Obama on a rope line talking to people, and there was one of his constituents that was very pleased with what he did with bin Laden. So I think he's continued some of the Bush policies. But what you're telling me is on foreign policy, Ron Paul is against foreign entanglements and against some of these other issues, and that's what people are excited about?
Right, and what was it, about 6 weeks ago, the Obama administration announced that they assassinated al-Awlaki, who is the American-born Muslim person that was working supposedly with the Taliban, supposedly running blogs that were anti-American. So all of a sudden, al-Awlaki gets killed. Now he's an American citizen, and at the Republican debates, they went right down the list of each of the presidential candidates, and everybody said, "Yeah, great move. Yeah, great move." But they came to Ron Paul. What did Ron Paul say? That's a bad idea. This guy was an American that did not get a trial, and actually, John Hartwell made that comment on his show Wednesday night too. This is a risk. All of a sudden, then the Obama administration announces they have 26 guys on the hit list that are targeted to be assassinated that are American citizens.
Okay, well,
Can we do that?
Well, we just had a graphic up. I'd like the graphic to go back up if we could. It's showing Barack Obama on a rope line, and the reaction he's gotten from what they did. Here we go. That bin Laden thing, that was fabulous. That's the kind of reaction Barack Obama is getting for his foreign policy. We have a lot of those pictures. We're going to be rolling them throughout the time. Yeah, he was pretty happy with that one. If he's calling George, asking if he has that mission accomplished manner. But let me take the other side of that. In this war on terror, there are enemy combatants. There aren't battlefields. This isn't, I don't know, the plains of Waterloo or something that this is being battled. And the guy that they took out with a drone strike, which I support, was instrumental in not only the Detroit bomber, but also the guy down in Fort Hood. He was on their websites and they were communicating and so forth. So I really don't have any problem whatsoever with zapping him with a drone. He's on to his reward of 70 virgins or whatever their plan is for the future. So I really don't have a problem with him if he was an American citizen or not. But that's just my approach.
Well, first of all, Ron Paul sent along a message that he's winning Iowa. He has won Iowa and on to New Hampshire. But, and there are, as you know, there are a lot of things that progressives and libertarians share as far as values, as far as being against things like the Patriot Act, against interring American citizens. Now, President Obama, amazingly enough, is on the same side. But see, the president does not write laws. The president gets laws delivered to his desk and either signs them, pocket vetoes them, or vetoes them.
Right.
So, unfortunately, the president gets the hand that he's dealt from the Congress, which, as you know, is behind Obama. Now, we're in the third quarter of a four-quarter game. If you think of it, the election cycle as being 4 quarters. We're in the third quarter, and President Obama is ahead of the Republican-led Congress 46-12.
Okay,
which is a pretty hefty lead.
That's fine, but let's just stay on foreign policy just for a second. So you're saying like when we're up against Glenn Beck, the nuts and batty professor guys like that, Obama's looking pretty good compared to some of those guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now what I don't understand here is when things. What
I don't understand is the left Dave and the right Dave are agreeing. This is a little frightening.
Well, that's the Ron Paul.
There is no left. There is no right when it comes to foreign policy.
Okay, you're saying Barack Obama. You're saying there are all these foreign entanglements, and Barack Obama is really forward-leaning and pretty heavy-handed when it comes to foreign policy. But you and Ron Paul think that's terrible. We shouldn't be mowing down American citizens in distant lands just because they're affiliated with terrorism.
See, here's what I find interesting. Anytime the left disagrees with an Obama policy, they come out and they say, "Oh, he's a victim of the system because he has, these things are served up and he has to vote on."
No, he's the president.
Right, but when Bush was in office, he got blamed for everything. He never got to hide behind the system.
But he had a Republican Congress, didn't he?
Well, he did not have a majority in both houses.
He had a Republican Congress where bills come out of, didn't he?
He still needs a Senate to pass it, right?
And did he not have? I think he had a 50-50 split in the Senate
in the first 2 years
with Dick Cheney casting the deciding vote as vice president.
Didn't Obama have the House and the Senate for the first 2 years of his term?
He sure did.
Yeah, and what do we get? We got Obamacare, great. We got TARP, great. We got
I believe TARP came out of Bush in August 2008. I believe.
Yeah, we can double check that because I know that Obama signed in February of 08. TARP was signed by Obama.
It's February 08?
09.
Oh, okay, 09.
Excuse me.
Well, they were pretty much. I remember when
the bailout was under.
When the bailout, there seemed to be consensus on that. But this is one point with President Obama because I applaud his foreign policy. I mean, in a recent press conference, they said, "Oh, we think you're a little soft on terrorism," and his retort was, "Ask Osama bin Laden if I'm."
So you think we should have bombed Libya?
Ask if 22 out of the top 23 Al Qaeda leaderships who have been taken off the field, ask them if they think I'm weak on terrorism. I appreciate his ability to attack Al Qaeda and do a pretty good job on it, but it seems a little bit like the left for 8 years under Bush was saying that's why they hate us because we're so mean to them. If we just be nice and have a group hug, everyone would get along. Kind of like
it might be good
Baghdad right now.
Might be good also to note that.
Hold on one second.
Bill Clinton came into office, and immediately we were struck, the World Trade Center. George Bush came into office, missed his presidential daily briefing of August 6th. Obama poised to strike within the United States using planes as weapons. didn't bother to read that, and we got hit. President Obama, 3 years in office, have we been hit?
No, and that's why I'm saying I think he's actually done a pretty darn good job.
He's efficient.
I know.
So,
caller, are you there?
He reads.
Yeah. Do you have a question? Thank you for calling.
Okay, I just had a question. I'm wondering why the troops support Ron Paul monetarily. Apparently, he gets more donations than all the troops, than all the other candidates combined times two. All the other Republican candidates.
Wow. Thank you. That's a very good question.
We're getting tired of getting sent around the world and nation building, probably.
well, we've been programmed to think that going and bombing other countries is doing God's work. It is not. The whole notion of loving, supporting the troops, to me means keeping them alive. That means not sending them into these foreign ventures that, do you hear what happened in Iraq yesterday? 100 people dead.
Yeah, 16
suicide
different-
bombings all
16,
across
yeah.
Baghdad. 100 dead.
One of the bombers was riding in an ambulance, and that's how he got past security.
So think about the collateral damage when we do these drone attacks. Do you think they're pointed? Do you think they only take out one guy?
All right, here's my point.
Shock
Okay,
and
because
awe.
none of this happens in a vacuum. But think back if you can. It's not pleasant to do, but think back if you can to September 11th, 2001, and what you were thinking. We had to respond to that type of terrorism. As you mentioned, Clinton was hit in 1993. I had a friend in the World Trade Center in both of those, and he was one of the guys that came down because they blew up a car bomb in the underground parking lot of the same World Trade Center. But think what your reaction was to that, and I have no problem with responding militarily to what happened here, because if you show weakness in those situations, you bring on further attacks.
But Iraq? What did Iraq have to do with 9/11?
Well, okay.
Besides
And
nothing.
that's what Paul
but
would
the
say.
Bush doctrine, agree with it or not, on Iraq was if you're a nation state that supports terrorism, we're coming after you. That was the Bush doctrine. And you can't tell me that Hussein didn't support terrorism, because he did.
It had nothing to do with 9/11.
He may have not had anything to do with 9/11, but
Well,
he was
there you go.
harboring terrorists and he was supporting terrorists.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, I can give you two quick examples.
Go ahead.
One was suicide bombers in Israel. The parents of the suicide bombers
And the
would
jackal.
be handed a $10,000 check. The third would be a jackal, and there was a guy named Abu Abbas. Remember Mr. Klinghoffer? He was in a wheelchair out on the Mediterranean Sea, and they wheeled it right off the edge of the ship. You want to know why? Because he was Jewish. Guess where Obama, whatever that terrorist name, where he was. He was right in suburban Baghdad. Hussein supported international terrorism. I think we're better off.
But you know what
There are
point? You know what
terrorists in the
point I
United
think.
States.
I think what point.
Would we attack the United States because there are terrorists within the United States?
What terrorists are we harboring in the United
There
States?
probably are some. Come on, you know them.
That's one thing if they're terrorists that are here, like the guy in Waco, Texas or something. That doesn't mean as a nation it's our policy to support and enhance international terrorism. When that is, we're coming after you. Keep your
Of
head
course,
down.
we didn't,
But-
we're not attacking
Obama.
Pakistan, though,
But
right?
what I think
We're not
Paul
attacking
would
Pakistan,
say.
though, right?
Pakistan's our ally.
Well, hold
This
on.
week.
But who did we just? Didn't we kill somebody named
24
Osama
soldiers.
bin Laden that was living in Pakistan for 9 years?
Yeah, I know. We had to go in and get the guy. I'm
Right,
sorry,
but that
you
doesn't
know.
mean you attack Pakistan. But anyway,
We didn't attack Pakistan. We attacked one little farm right next to their West Point. That's what we attacked. And we got the heck out of there, except for the tail of the
I like that
helicopter.
approach.
But what Ron Paul would say, I think he would say, to that is that what government does and what government does badly is it picks
voice
and
of reason.
it picks and chooses. It picks and chooses.
Obama's, you're saying?
No, in general, the United States, and why he's against this interventionist foreign policy. Because you could say, we know Iran sponsors terrorism. Are we going into Iran? We watched the slaughter in
We got
in
a drone
Darfur.
in there.
Well, we watched the
Let's not
slaughter in
forget Saudi
Darfur.
Arabia.
We watched the slaughter in Rwanda, and we stood back. But we went into Libya because Gaddafi was outside Benghazi, and 70,000 people were going to die. Do we go into Syria? Do we go here? It's picking and choosing.
Well,
and that's not.
It's an ad hoc
consistent.
foreign
Yeah, it's an ad
policy.
hoc
No, it
foreign
isn't.
policy.
It certainly
Let's,
is.
we're all adults here. Let's be honest. There's
Saudi
oil in
Arabia.
Libya,
Okay, well-
and that's why we're in
Right.
there. There isn't in Rwanda, so that's why we
I say
stay there.
two things on Ron Paul, the negative of Ron Paul, and why I think he might be positive. The negative is he's a strict ideologue. He's consistent, unlike other politicians.
He's never backed off.
He doesn't back off.
Right.
But that's one of his weaknesses, because as a libertarian, he's against the Fed, he's against big interventionist government. He wants to lower taxes. He wants to return things to the states. That's great with Republicans.
Yeah.
He doesn't like interventionists.
And progressives.
No, but that's the other side. Doesn't like interventionist foreign policy. He's big on civil liberties. That applies to progressives, liberals. They call them progressive.
And
now.
the Fed.
I know. Ask
so-
Mr.
Right.
Liberal soup
Yeah.
doesn't have the same cachet as progressive
So
soup.
he's drawing from the two sides
words.
in a small percentage or a reasonable percentage, which is not enough to get him over the top. But
But it might be enough to win Iowa.
before I take the caucus, I say one more thing why he think he could be good.
One Iowa.
Well,
It's over.
oh, okay, let's get
Go
it.
ahead.
What's been the downfall of all the great empires, all the great civilizations? They haven't been beaten from outside.
A liberal president?
They've all collapsed from within.
That's true.
And I think what Paul says, maybe America took that gauntlet after World War II, did it for the Cold War, and maybe it's time for America to do what it did in
Right.
1789.
All law
And
enforcement
go back.
authorities and all citizens in the greater Danbury area, call off the Amber Alert. We have made contact with Larry. I went to University of Pennsylvania, Ditkoff. Larry, where are you? The people
He's
want to
looking
know.
for a pink tie.
Marty, I am so. First, Marty, my apologies to you.
Larry, you're missing my TV show. You're humiliating me in front of a vast TV audience. What's
Never
up
mind.
with
We
that,
can do as
Larry?
good a job as he can. Can't we?
Marty,
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into it. I am really. Yeah,
Larry, I think this might be a conversation we can have off the air. Suffice it to say, you and your pink tie will not be joining us.
I did want to talk about Libya, Marty. And, maybe Marty, after I hang up, I'm going to rush down.
Come on down, but bring your pink tie. And we're on for the whole hour, so get your butt down here.
All right, I'm moving right now. Bye.
All right, bye. Okay, Larry's going to be coming down.
Okay.
Whoa!
So
we
what
dodged the bullet. Larry's on the way.
Okay. First of all, we got to back up because you said, "Hey,
Any bets on the pink
these
tie?
planes."
Forget it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
these planes run into the World Trade Center, and all of a sudden, we've got to attack someone, right?
Yes, that would be the long and the
so
short of it. Yes.
I always appreciate Jim Bellotto coming on here with his historical perspective and scholarly approach.
a professor.
Well, in our audience, we have my nieces and nephews tonight. Well, let me
Yes.
tell you about their grandfather. Their grandfather is a retired professor from the University of Illinois, and he's a historian. And he's written books that are about 5,000 pages on about a 6-day window from the 1600s. I mean, this guy is nuanced like you can't believe.
Jim has written some articles.
Now, we're not necessarily always on the same page politically, but that's okay. And after 9/11, and we go to attack Afghanistan, and I was at at my sister-in-law's house, and he was there, and I said, "So what do you think about it?" "It's the wrong thing to do." And I said, "Really? Why is that?" He said, "Well, number of reasons. Number one, Afghanistan's the graveyard of empires. Nobody seems to succeed. The Russians just got their butt kicked.
Soviet Union.
So you got to know that. And second of all, from a historical perspective, yeah, this attack was tragic, but the total loss of life on a relative basis, from a historical perspective, is not overly significant."
And you're right. Pearl Harbor, what did we lose? 2,400 sailors, something like that. Let's not get wound up.
So his point was there may be a much better approach here. You have to wield power carefully. And the fact is, what have we accomplished so far in Afghanistan? We satisfied maybe a bloodlust of Americans that think we're tougher than anybody, and we went and bombed them. Congratulations. The day we pull out of there, guess what? They're back to growing the best cocaine or pot or whatever they're growing over there, or hemp.
Heroin poppies.
Yeah.
Poppies.
I mean, they're 100% back in the drug trade. In fact, we may be sponsoring it. Who knows?
Well, who's this? Your uncle or your
My sister-in-law's father.
sister-in-law's father? Well, I would humbly disagree.
So you
I
say
think
go
that
attack.
the
Go
attack,
bomb.
the same thing on Pearl Harbor, same thing on what happened in 9/11. If you allow that type of just raw aggression against harmless citizens stand.
So the
then you're gonna-
Saudis attack America, and we attack Afghanistan.
No, you're
No.
right in saying that something like 18 out of the 21 terrorists were Saudi Arabian nationals.
But they were
or something
hiding in
like that.
Afghanistan.
They were hiding in Afghanistan, and they had been welcomed in by the Taliban. That was the host country. The fact that these rich idealists, it always frosts me because all these terrorists are not put upon, people that have been taken advantage of by, white Westerners or something like that. Usually there's like the bank president's son that wants to blow up a plane or something
Bin
like
Laden.
that. Or a Bin Laden, a perfect example. A young heir to a construction
live in Connecticut.
fortune. Or that joker in Connecticut that went down and wanted to tie. There are all these
So here's
whacked out.
But here's the problem with our foreign policy.
No, but let me just say this. We have to respond to aggression. If you do not respond to aggression, you welcome additional aggression.
Oh, it's appeasement, right?
Yeah, I would say appeasement.
Okay.
Appeasement is feeding the crocodile, hoping that it eats
right,
you
if it
last.
wasn't for Churchill, we'd all be speaking German.
But how about the way we?
Well, actually, Churchill did stand alone while the Nazis grew in power, and it was Neville Chamberlain that said, "I have peace in our time because I negotiated with, and we gave them Czechoslovakia and throw in Poland, but now they'll leave us alone." How'd that work?
But how about
not so good?
How about the way we wage war, Marty? After Pearl Harbor and after the Nazis declared war on us, what do? To beat the Nazis, we firebombed Dresden,
Right.
Berlin, Tokyo, dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now we nation build. We go in and we, pinprick, surgical bombing, drones. We don't even want soldiers getting involved. God forbid somebody should get killed in a war. It's an odd way that we conduct war now, and I think that's the problem. It's an imperialism. It's an odd imperialism. It's a fear of the post-Vietnam
Would it be better to
era.
firebomb Kabul, or would it be better to go in and strategically take out the terrorists?
I think if you're in a war, you got to win the war, and you got to figure out how.
So
that means break the will of the people.
You can see the country right now getting built up for a war footing against Iran.
Oh, absolutely.
You can feel it coming.
We're being talked into.
And here's what I hear all the time from people. We can't let them get the bomb because they'll use it. Okay, so how long did Russia have the bomb for, and how many times did they use it?
Okay, but
Does North Korea have the bomb? Now, don't tell me this guy is crazy, because you know what? We say that about everybody.
Yeah.
Little kid.
Well, okay, the difference I would say between the Russian example during the Cold War, they had something called mutual assured destruction, MAD, and it kept the peace. As mad as it was, it kept the peace because we had loaded guns pointed at each other and no one wanted to pull the trigger. Okay, you can't have a loaded gun with a guy in Iran that has this messianic, they want to bring about Armageddon and bring in some, religious leader or something like that. That's what they want to do. And the stated objective of the Iranian regime is to wipe Israel off the map.
So are over 1 billion Muslims. That's their
But
stated
they
objective.
don't have a nuclear weapon.
But why
and
isn't
that's
there-
the issue.
But there's mutually assured destruction there would be between Iran and Israel, wouldn't there?
But,
Because Israel has atomic
Well, there you
bombs.
go.
Oh yeah, Israel will,
And they'll use them.
and they've actually already begun to take out some of their scientists.
But
and
here's
some
the
of their
hype.
plants and stuff like that.
When did the Russians first get nukes? Early 60s, I believe. Somewhere.
The Russians, late 40s.
Late
Chinese, early
40s.
60s.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me.
Chinese, early 60s. Yeah.
But for 30 years, we lived in this fear that they were going to shoot missiles over at us, and we found out for years and years and years, from the time they got nukes, for years and years and years, they didn't have the capability to hit us, right?
Who, the Russians?
The Russians, for years and years and years, we had been living with the fear that they had the capability to launch missiles and attack us, and for years and years they didn't. So what I'm saying is, Ron Paul was gave a speech a couple days ago, and he said, "Look, I do not believe that Iran is on the verge of a nuclear capability that can threaten other countries."
Well, I don't know. The Democrat head of the Department of Defense right now is just on 60 Minutes saying that they were, and that they would that would not stand.
Panetta,
that the
yeah.
Iranian regime would have, Panetta would have a nuclear weapon.
I rather like him, by the way.
Who, Panetta?
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to vote for Ron Paul. I'll tell you that.
But here, they're not a swell bunch of guys over there in Iran. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows their ambition. But the idea of keeping them from developing a nuclear weapon, I think, is kind of foolish. Unless you want to go in there and take out a regime and nation build over there.
All right, so let's play this out. So the Iranians, we wake up March 1st, and not only do they have one of our drones, but they have a nuclear weapon.
No, we gave him one of our drones.
Yeah, we landed it there.
It could have been a thing. Now, Al Robinson, who, by the way, David, accused us of doing
Which David?
David left. David Stevenson, of doing a hit job on you because you were the only guy of the progressive persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you've been hit on or in any way taken advantage of?
No, I have a girlfriend now. I don't get hit on anymore.
Okay. I do find you rather attractive with that squaff of hair. I'm just saying.
I have
All right,
to
wait,
do
it's taking a turn.
That would be the Newt Gingrich
Al
thing.
Robinson is
Let's see
joining
if
us.
there's a
Al
question in
Robinson,
there.
Al Robinson, of
one.
course, the publisher. If you can publish a blog site, of Hat City Blog. Hat City Blog. You got to go on there. If you're Mayor Bowden, newly reelected, you might not want to. He has funny pictures of you. Hat City Blog. Google it. Al, your thoughts. What are your questions for this august panel?
A couple of things. I'll be as quick as possible because this is kind of interesting. In terms of the nuclear nonsense, my parents can tell you.
It's only nonsense until it blows up in your backyard. Then it's not so much nonsense.
Well, my parents can tell you at times they were very, very, very afraid. This country was very, very, very afraid that we were going to go into a nuclear war. And I think it was not. I can't remember. 13 days, and the big blockade of Cuba.
Yeah, that was pretty close. I've seen the movie, like 17 days or something like that.
Yeah, that was real, and that was a very scary time for our country. But I just want to get back on the primary, on this whole Republican thing right now again, because look, we know Obama's going to be the Democratic nominee. That's done.
Hillary's not coming back.
On the Republican side, Republicans have to come together and get and vote for a nominee. And I think there's just because these poll numbers are going up and down and fluctuating so crazy, there's no real front runner. Ron Paul might do a good job in Iowa. He has the organizational skills to pull out the people to a caucus, which is a lot different from a primary, by the way. I'm sure you guys know all about that. Romney should be able to win New Hampshire. In fact, if he doesn't win New Hampshire, he might as well just pack up and go. But, besides that, and I want to hear from all the people on the panel, what do you think about these candidates going into the convention? And I'm saying, let's say the big guys would probably be Gingrich, would probably definitely be Romney, maybe Paul, maybe John Huntsman. He can search up in the polls any day now. All these other candidates are going up and down. But what do you think about the convention? All these guys going into the convention with these certain amount of delegates, and what do you think will happen? Because these Republicans at the convention, these delegates and superdelegates are going to have to come together and nominate one of these guys as their nominee for president. I think it's going to be pretty hard to do because there's so many fractions in the Republican Party. And then all of them are not sold on one.
All right, well, listen, Al, I appreciate your heartfelt concern about the division within the Republican Party, and I think we do need to unite behind a candidate, and I appreciate your concern. But thanks for the call. When are you going to come into the show? Can you jump in a car like Larry Ditkoff is right now, and do you have a pink tie?
Well, I definitely don't have a pink tie. But just one quick thing again. You have the religious right. You have moderates, you have libertarians, you have evangelicals. You have a lot of factions of the Republican Party who have to come together and vote for a nominee. And each one of these candidates, these factions of the Republican Party are pretty down on, and some are approving of.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We'll throw it out to the panel. Thanks a lot, and come on down. Don't be such a stranger. And by the way, your David Stevenson is not getting a hit job, are you, David? Do you feel taken advantage of?
Say again?
Do you feel taken advantage of or in any way put upon?
No. This is a pleasure to be
All right. See you later. Thanks, Al.
All right, take care, guys.
What about that? I have an opinion, but what do you think? Are we helplessly divided? No one can come together. He's a Mormon, not an evangelical. Should we all, unite around a newt? What are we doing here?
Well, first of all, I don't recall that in December of 2007 that Barack Obama had the nomination locked up.
So I recall it was a bit divided.
It was a bit divided. Yeah. Number two, nobody's cast a vote yet. And when they start casting votes, candidates will drop out and voters will have a smaller choice, and eventually they'll have a nominee. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of hype is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. Nobody's cast a vote yet. Rick Santorum, he's pleading his heart out, but he comes out of Iowa 4th or 5th, and he doesn't show up in New Hampshire. He's done. What's he going to do? He's going to pack up his bags and go. And his voters will go somewhere else. And that's the bottom line. Nobody's cast a vote yet. This is normal fracturing. It's called democracy. Maybe that's why a liberal like Al's not in favor of it. He believes in statism.
You know how quick that phone's going to light up now?
Only kidding, Al.
Well, what about that? David Stevenson, are we hopelessly divided, or the Republican Party? And is this a bad thing, or is this a healthy thing?
Are you headed for a knife fight at the convention? I think probably so.
I think there's a knife fight going right now on television sets across Iowa. Have you seen the...
Where's the convention being held this year?
Geez, I don't know. Where is it?
I don't know.
If you know, call in. and tell us where the convention. You know who would know?
Are bazookas,
Larry Ditkoff
Of course,
would know.
he's
a
got
savant.
tickets.
Are bazookas allowable in that state?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
my
buzzword
question.
these days.
Listen.
Let me.
Listen, as I
They-
recall,
they might be in
the
Denver.
Clinton camp and the Obama camp weren't exactly having tea parties and kumbaya sessions either. They didn't exactly hug it out there on the campaign
Yeah, but
trail.
that was 2 of them.
And who was the other guy with the
the
pretty guy from North Carolina, John
Pretty Boy
Edwards or something
Floyd?
like that?
Yeah.
John Edwards and
Yeah.
them. They were battling to get on union strike lines to say who was the most union supported to get those voters. I didn't sit back and go, oh, look at those Democrats. They're hopelessly divided. They'll never come together.
Yeah, but they didn't have this kind of a tie like that. The Republicans are really, in fact, 4 or 5 candidates that have been, 5 candidates so far that have been rising stars.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, they're gone. Because people find out about them.
So let me. Here's
And then the next one comes
here's
into place.
It's scratch and sniff. You
Here's
see
what
them,
I
you
find
scratch, you
interesting.
Sniff a little. You like it, or you put it back on the shelf.
So, like I said, I have 2 nieces and a nephew here today, and they're all from State College, Pennsylvania, and big
I
supporters
was
of
a
Penn
little
State.
offended
Oh, my
by the
God.
scratch and sniff. But go ahead.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
a paterno coach
so
strategy.
my nephew says on the drive over up to the studio tonight, says, hey, they had a straw poll at my high school, and I said, oh, really? Who won? He said, well, Ron Paul. Now think about this. Everywhere you go, Ron Paul wins the straw polls. When they have polls on Fox TV, guess who wins them all? Ron Paul. And you know what they do? They say, oh, we had to throw out the poll tonight because Ron Paul won.
Yeah.
As if he's clearly not a credible candidate. So for him to win a poll, it's obviously discredited.
It's that decriminalization vote.
Well, did you hear what the governor of Iowa said this week? Disregard our caucus if Ron Paul wins.
Well, okay, you want to know why? Because the Republican governor of Iowa is concerned that the Iowa caucuses will become a
Discredited.
non-entity and
Right.
discredited because of, you didn't have President Dole and he won Iowa. You didn't have President Huckabee and he won Iowa.
Right.
So,
Tom Harkin?
Tom Harkin, he won Iowa. All these guys. So at some point, the Iowans are going out here, are we just going to take a flyer on someone or are we going to vote for the guy that everyone knows is going to be the candidate, Mitt Romney? Like him or love him, don't like him, whatever. Because he looks like a president.
Do you think a Massachusetts liberal is going to get elected in a national election on a Republican ticket?
Okay.
There is no way. He is the most easily beatable candidate of the pack.
Here's why he will win. Follow me at home. There's 45% of the electorate who are right-wing conservative liberal, or right-wing conservative Republicans, kind of like me and some people on there. There's 45% that are rabid Democrat liberals, think government's the answer for everything. If it moves, tax it. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. That's the mindset of this 45%. So in the middle, there's 10%, and those are the independents. And whoever gets the independents wins this thing. Mitt Romney is huggable enough and safe enough and electable enough, and gosh knows he looks like a president to swerve those independents. Look at him right there. Just ask Mitt anything. He can get that independent vote. They're afraid of Ron Paul. They don't like Newt. How can you have a president named Newt? Excuse me, Newt. You can't do that. And then these other candidates, I like Michelle Bachmann. I think she's good.
Carter.
Newt has too much baggage, as you can tell by the political cartoon that's up there right now. But that is why
You realize Mitt stands for
Romney-
nothing.
Exactly.
Wait.
And that's
Now,
why
wait.
he's excelling
That's
in
how
Who
I
American
knows
politics.
Mitt Romney's real name? Michael Jackson sang a lovely song to him, Willard. Remember the Willard? The
Willard?
That was
song to a
Ben.
rat?
Yes, Ben.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ben.
Ben.
Okay, which
But
one
it
is?
was the
Careful.
sequel to Willard.
Oh, wrong rat.
Ben was the
sorry.
sequel to Willard, though. You got it.
Okay.
You're in the ball.
Willard.
Wait, you lost me at Michael Jackson. What are we talking about here?
Mitt Romney's, Mitt Romney's real name is
Yeah.
Willard.
Is Willard.
A rat.
And Michael Jackson sang
Who's
Ben.
going to vote
was
for
on
a
the
guy
Ben.
with a name that's
Well,
associated with being a
Barack
rat?
Obama's real name is Barry or something
No.
like that.
Yeah, it is.
Something
It's Barry
like that?
Sorrento. That's the name. That's
So
his real
Barack.
name.
Barry is his nickname.
Hold
No,
on.
Barry Sorrento's
There's
his
someone
name.
calling in. I'm sure they're going to agree with me.
Sorrento.
Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do you agree with me?
I had you on mute because I was calling you, so I didn't hear your argument.
Oh, but did you see my facial expressions? You could follow. Anyways,
Can you turn that up?
What's your? Do you have a question for the group?
And it's not 100% on your topic. I was curious, what do they think of Mr. DeStefano's idea to have non-citizens vote in the elections?
It's illegal.
It was in
He's
today's
not
news
trying to
stuff.
do it either.
Excellent question. Thank you very much. So let's switch gears. DeStefano, what do you think about what he was saying about non-citizens voting?
Yeah, I think he's basically announced that he will never seek office outside the city of New Haven again. It's kind of an absurd idea.
Let's pander.
It just doesn't make any sense. And I think he's getting backlash not only from conservatives, but he's getting them from Democrats, from Hispanic groups. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, first of all, when you become a citizen, what do they make you do?
Bring us up to speed on DeStefano, who he is, what's his office, and what does he say?
He's the Democratic mayor of New Haven, long serving. Put his toe in the water in the governor's race.
Is he at risk of getting not getting?
I don't
elected?
believe so. In New Haven, that's why I don't understand the pander. I think he's got the job for life if he wants it, and I think apparently he's decided he wants it. And he made a proposal that because they're part of the community, that illegals, undocumented aliens should have the right to vote. And of course, he got a cold shoulder from Malloy and from a lot of people. But if you think about it, what's so odd about it? What do they do when you become a citizen? Prior to becoming a citizen, they give you a test, and part of the test is, what's the Constitution? Who is George Washington?
What are the
three branches of government?
Senator Schulman couldn't pass.
So why would you turn that? Why would you turn that over to someone who has no knowledge of it? Secondly, is here illegally.
Schulman. Sorry, go ahead.
So they're here illegally.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's an odd proposal.
All right, but let me, David Stevenson, let me ask you that because it seems like the growing Hispanic vote, both in Connecticut and nationally, is somewhat up for grabs. I think the Democratic Party would like to say they have ownership of it, but I think in the last election there was somewhat of a split, something like, 70-30, something like that, Democrats over Republican with that Hispanic vote. But where do you see that coming down nationally and in Connecticut as well?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have to ask you to call it Latino rather than Hispanic because it's the same. It has the same meaning, but they're two different words. And of course, Hispanic has kind of a nasty kind of sound to it, where Latino has a nice sound to it.
Okay, I apologize.
Is that the new trend in political correctness?
No,
it's called using the correct word.
Latino.
Latino.
Fine. Excellent.
They essentially mean the same thing.
Hey, we do have, from our esteemed audience, we do have a question here.
Oh, okay,
they have a
yes.
microphone. Go
right
ahead.
ahead.
What do you got, Davis?
Come on up.
I was just thinking back to the idea about Mitt Romney being electable or not. Is it not true that possibly this could be just because he switches all of his ideas?
I'll call it
Somebody's
the
been feeding him
chameleon
that
factor. What about that? I don't know. We have a graphic on that. There's a cartoon where it says Ask Mitt Romney. And is he trying to be all things for all people so he doesn't stand for anything in the end? And is that what we want leading our party?
Well, I think that's an astute observation because, the healthcare thing, 1 minute he's for national healthcare, then he's not. 1 minute he's in favor of TARP, then he's not.
He was never for national healthcare.
Well, he has a promoted government health care program in Massachusetts.
Which is stronger than the national
that's a
healthcare.
10th Amendment issue, isn't it? That's what Ron Paul likes, the 10th Amendment. It's a 10th Amendment
Ron
issue.
Paul is not in favor of a national health care program.
No, that's true, but that was Massachusetts' choice.
Right, the
under
state can
10th
do
Amendment.
that, but it's kind of hard to then differentiate and say you were in favor of it in Massachusetts, and then when you get on the national scene, you're opposed to it.
I think he can. Well, nobody's listening to his 10th Amendment argument, but I think he should make his 10th Amendment argument.
Ladies and
nobody's
gentlemen,
listening to it.
Yeah.
Without any further ado, call off the Amber Alert. There has been a Larry Ditkoff.
The legend has arrived.
Yeah.
The man, the legend, Larry Ditkoff is joining us. Larry, can you confirm or deny for our vast television audience that you are, in fact, an Ivy League graduate?
They may want to take back my diploma now, Marty.
Not at all. I
Yeah,
appreciate you making the effort to come down.
No.
And that is not the pinkest tie you have, but it's good enough.
Well, I have to go get it.
Okay, Larry, we have three topics on the table.
Yeah.
One
First,
is
my apologies to you and the audience.
Listen, look, a half a loaf is better than no loaf, so I just appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
We have one issue that a young man from our audience talked about. Mitt Romney seems to take both sides of all issues. Abortion comes to mind. Healthcare comes comes to mind. He's running as an arch conservative, but what about his past? Is that who we want as the banner carrier for the Republican Party? And the other one was the mayor of New Haven, who suggested that undocumented aliens should be able to vote. What are your thoughts?
All right, well, let's take Romney first. As Mitt Romney said in his own inimicable way, he goes, well, hey, I'm running for president. He pretty much kind of, changes his tune. You mentioned abortion, obviously the health care legislation that was passed while he was governor in Massachusetts comes to mind. His comments that he was a job creator when he was at Bain, he slashed boatloads and boatloads of jobs. His claim that he lived in squalor when he was a missionary for the Mormon Church in France. Turned out he lived in a palace. That wasn't true. So yeah, I mean he's a typical
credibility gap.
Typical politician. As for the undocumented aliens, that was actually on the cover of the Danbury Times today, I think it was. They had people asking the questions. If people are here and they're making, yes, they're undocumented, but they do pay taxes and they do contribute to a society and then they also pay a certain share, then I don't really have an issue with them voting.
So they should be able to vote?
Yeah,
I think Russians should be able to vote.
Russians?
Yeah.
You can't even vote in Russia.
Yeah, they can't even vote.
They're disadvantaged in Russia, so they should be able to participate in our process. It's the same thing as saying, Hispanics or Latinos for you, Dave, should be able to vote. They're not American citizens. It's ridiculous. Why not have Russians voting then? They're not American citizens
but
either.
Russians don't live here, Dave, and they're not in.
How long do you have to live here? How long do you have to live here?
Hey, how long
A year?
would you
5
have to
years?
live?
25 years?
No, but they don't live here at all.
No, I'm talking about the Latinos you're talking about. How long do you have to be a member of the community? That was Newt's compassionate address to the illegal immigration question. Oh, if you're here 25 years and you're a grandmother and you're a member of a church and you're part of the community, and it's like, okay, what if you're not? What if you're here 24 years and you don't go to church anymore and
all right, that's a fair point. No, that's a fair point.
It's the line that's going to cause.
There has to be. Maybe a certain standard. Yeah.
Now, this show has been accused of being right-wing and not being fair and balanced. I would like to flag this tape because we have someone on television saying that undocumented aliens should be able to vote just because they live here and pay taxes.
Well, you know what Madison said.
Kind of. Pay taxes.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Sales tax.
Well, Marty, Madison made the comment that passion will always wrest the scepter from reason.
Hold on, I got to write that down.
Yeah.
Passion
will always rest the scepter
That's
from
rest
reason.
with a W.
And that right there is Larry's argument.
Okay.
It's passion.
It's
these poor
compassionate.
people, they're disadvantaged.
They should
They've
be-
been here. But what's the law? What's the law? The law is you have to be an American citizen.
That wasn't the couple of things, Dave. That wasn't the question. The question was, should they be? Should they be allowed to vote?
And what
Not
you
what
say?
they.
You say yes.
I thought it was pretty clear.
And that's what I'm saying. Your
Yeah,
argument is an argument of passion.
No.
Where's the logic?
I just explained the logic.
Well,
Dave.
but that's not the law.
No, that's not what was asked. What was asked was not what was the law. Okay. The question that was asked is should illegal aliens be allowed to vote? And I agree with Dr. Bolano. We spoke once on the phone.
Yes.
Jim, I apologize. Jim, that there should be some sort of, you can't just be off the,
path
the
to
boat.
Citizenship? Is that what you're looking for?
Marty, I don't have, a real well thought out view, a real specific view on this in terms of what should be the appropriate level
So should all non-Americans living in America be allowed to vote then? Or only Latinos?
Non-citizens.
Well, if you're talking about, say, someone who's here on an H-1B visa, that sort of thing.
Or students that are here, going to school, exchange students.
That's a good point.
So where do you draw the line?
That's a fair point, though. I mean, like I said, I'd have to think about it in more, more detail.
Yeah, I'm also sympathetic, too. I think if you've lived in this country for X number of years, and, a lot of the guys do pay taxes in some form, we have to address this. And the way I would address it is I would make it much, much easier to become an American citizen. We need people coming to this country.
Yes.
I would say if you get an advanced degree in America, not only should you be allowed to live here for 5 years and work here, you should be required to live here and work for 5 years.
Yeah, but Marty, we're not. I mean, Deb, we're not
Carly,
talking
do you have
about
a
people with
question for
advanced-
this?
Let's be
this
honest, you're not
panel?
sending
Go right
11
ahead.
million people back anyway. You're just not going to do it.
Right.
Although we are ideologically opposed, I really like the fact that you'll intellectually debate a question. I had to step away, so you guys may have covered this, but regarding people living in America that should or shouldn't be able to vote, I mean, there's a lot of points. It's not the law. Do we allow radical, anti-American Muslims who live in the country to vote? Do we allow that? Thanks, guys.
All right, okay. I think it's hard. Yeah, I mean, if they're U.S. citizens, regardless of their political affiliation, obviously you're allowed to vote.
You can vote for Dennis Kucinich.
You let radical Christians vote. Why not radical Muslims?
Yeah,
What is a
I
radical
think,
Christian?
Like a radical Muslim, except they're Christian.
Well, they don't blow themselves up, right? There's a little difference there, I guess.
They blow up
They don't abuse.
federal buildings.
They don't mutilate their wives.
Not
I guess. I don't know.
They just,
I mean,
no,
what is a radical Christian? Someone that has faith in God, that believes in Jesus Christ? I don't know.
Someone that
Count me
whoa,
in.
is Timothy McVeigh a radical Christian?
Oh, absolutely.
No, I don't think so. He was like the
Absolutely.
Michigan militia guy. He was
No,
kind of
he was
an
misguided.
anti-federal
Yeah.
government
yeah,
guy.
you think?
The
Ron
guy
Paul
who
supporter.
blew up the Atlanta abortion clinics, those bombs, he might have been kind of a more religious.
Who's that? Is
But I
that
don't think
Eric
Timothy McVeigh was overtly
He was a Ron Paul
religious.
Nah, Timothy McVeigh's thing was because of Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, it was Ruby
it was
Ridge
really-
and stuff like that.
Right.
It wasn't like, I mean, generally speaking, your Christian worldview is we want to love you. Just ask Larry.
They're
We want
not.
to share the gospel with you.
Yeah.
We don't want to blow you up. We
I
want
understand
to.
that,
We
yeah.
want to earn a right to hear the greatest message in the world, and that is that God loves you and has a plan for your life, and you would be make a great decision to ask Christ into your life and forgive you for your sins and have that abundant life that's talked about in the Bible.
You might
But
want to talk about
Tune
that.
in next week because we're going to talk more about that. But generally speaking, Christians don't want to blow people up. They want to love them.
They blow
want
up
to.
abortion clinics.
Well,
Well, they
Christians
want
do,
there's-
and all
that's-
Muslims don't blow themselves up. I
that's
mean,
big,
if you're talking about a radical fringe.
Yeah, but I mean, his point is, we let everyone vote. You can have radical Muslims voting. I mean, I think there's millions and millions of Muslims in the United States, and the vast majority of them are peace-loving, generally speaking, family-oriented, and of course they can vote because we're a pluralistic society. And who gets to decide which religion gets to participate in the political process? Even though Al Robinson thinks that because Mitt Romney's a Mormon, he should be disqualified for that.
I'm sure. I don't think that's
He did say
Well,
on
I'm
the
telling you,
air last week he
they
was
they
tough.
went from Planet Zarda or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, appealing to some.
Well, the best Mormon candidate is actually not Mitt Romney. The best guy
Huntsman.
running, perhaps the best guy running, the most reasonable man running for the Republican nomination is John Huntsman.
Without
Who's a
question.
Mormon.
I've appreciated Orrin Hatch for years in the Senate.
Orrin
and
Hatch is not a bad guy. He's a pretty good
he's
guy.
a very clear thinking. I think the Mormon Church, by and large, has really helped the United States quite a bit.
Well, look on the bright side. If there's ever a food shortage, you know where to go.
I lost
I think
that.
I-
What
They
is
they
that?
stockable food.
Okay, I was thinking about
The
Dave.
Mormons?
Yeah.
I was thinking about
I don't
Dave.
know about that.
Dave
I mean,
Checkett.
6 months supply.
I think whether
You
you're,
have to have a
you're
6 month supply.
evangelical Christian, Orthodox Jewish, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Protestant Catholic, Roman Catholic. I think we're a pluralistic society. Everyone has a place in the town square, and let the best,
Plus, who is the radical Muslim going to vote for? I mean, who's
They have no candidate,
They have no
yes.
candidate out there. I mean, so
Well,
it's of course they're going to vote.
Look. I appreciate. Here we go. So, you didn't say bad things about the Mormon religion, Al Robinson, Hat City Blog.
Oh, I'll need a whole hour to talk about Mormons, but I just want to talk about.
See what I'm saying? Go
Marty,
ahead.
Al, did you
This
say?
is religious bigotry.
No,
Go
Al,
ahead.
did you say that Romney should not be allowed to run because he's a Mormon?
One quick question before you guys go. If you don't have
Did you hear his question?
I couldn't hear it, but I just want to get my question.
All right, go ahead.
There was a ruling in the Supreme Court, Citizens United, that allows corporations to dump tons and tons of money into.
Hey, a corporation's a person. Just ask Mitt Romney. Go ahead.
My question is this: in the Republican primary and this Republican battle for the nomination, what is your opinion about the impact money has on this race? Mitt Romney has a lot of money.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the Teamsters Union funds that are put in, the
Teachers
American
Union.
Teachers Union funds, I think those pockets of money are outrageous, and the effect that they have on local elections. I think all those left-wing
corporations do.
PACs is outrageous, the money that they spend. Is that what you're referring
They don't
to?
have money like
So
corporations.
I'm referring to the Republicans running for the nomination of the president. How I'm asking for the panel.
Oh.
What is their opinion for? What is their opinion?
Oh. Okay, all right. All right.
What's their opinion about money involved in this race?
Here I thought he was talking about the money from all these left-wing PACs, the Teachers Union, the Teamsters Union, and all the corrupting influence of those left-wing PAC money, but apparently he's talking about the corrupting influence of the right-wing PAC money. Something about a goose and a gander comes
Marty,
to me.
but he's being pretty clear. He's talking
Get
about
off
this
your soapbox
particular.
and allow the other people to talk and give their opinions. I appreciate it. So I'll let you go. I want to hear everybody else's opinion.
All right, go ahead.
He's talking about the GOP specifically, Marty. No one.
I think the commercials are great. I think corporations have a right to express themselves. The Supreme Court agrees with me. What's the problem?
Well, it's just ironic for the left to raise the issue when they've got the billion-dollar man in the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody raised money like Obama. I've never, and the payback on that money was about 1,000 to 1.
Hey,
Every dollar you put in, you got
Solandra.
1,000 out.
Hey, Marty.
I know you have to bundle, then you get a
couple of
half
things.
billion,
All right,
but for
all right,
Solandra.
couple of things. One, if you saw the Solandra bankruptcy.
I did. It
you
was
know-
on
okay.
TV.
No. Okay. If you saw the Solandra bankruptcy filing, the United States.
I'm a more visual guy. I don't read that much. I leave it to the Ivy League guys.
The United States is a secure creditor. Yeah, they loaned.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No,
But
Yes,
they're-
they
but
are.
they're
last
behind.
one, they're
That's not
behind.
true.
But they're behind the
Some
investors.
other
read it today.
Obama
I heard
bundler
the hearings.
investment
I read
bankers.
it today. By the way, what about Boehner? I don't know if you had an opportunity to talk about the payroll tax extension. You know, he's
2
from
months. We
Ohio.
didn't.
Yep.
2 months, right. He's from Ohio. He wants to give a $2 billion guarantee to U.S. Enrichment Corp. to build a, what do you call it, a cyclotron, a centrifuge in Piketown, Ohio. Gee, maybe it's because his state, I don't know if it's his district. $2 billion. Solandra was $500 million. So what about that?
Well, I think that's an ongoing business, as I recall. And
I think it's flawed.
They live on government contracts, the one you're talking about in Ohio. The Solandra thing, you sure you want to defend Solandra? Because that was basically from an Obama bundler was given taxpayer money to build a factory that produces cells, solar cells that cost $6 to produce, and they can sell them for $3. And guess what? They went bankrupt.
Stephen Chu, he's a pretty smart guy. Probably knows a little bit more about it than you do, Marty.
Okay.
Actually, thought the technology was worthwhile. The idea was that it would event. You're making a face.
I'm making a face because some guy named Stephen Chu thought it was a good
Stephen
idea.
Chu
So he put
is
$500 million into
the
it.
physicist,
Secretary of
the Nobel
Energy,
Prize
yeah.
winner,
Oh, no.
Department of Energy.
Well,
That's
Al
Stephen
Gore
Chu.
is a Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah,
Al Gore won the Peace Prize. He didn't win it.
Obama's a Nobel Prize winner.
It wasn't a technical award.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Sorry.
This has been a lot of fun. We need to do it again. I'm being told that we need to wrap it up.
You just got to get here on
Carol
time.
Burnett would sing the following song. I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh and sing a song. Okay, you know the rest of it.
Yes.
Listen, I want to thank you very
Say
much,
goodbye.
Larry Ditkoff, for joining us. We got your name spelled right, which is a big thing. Next
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
on time and a pink tie. David Straight, thank you for bringing
Pleasure
your
to be here.
friends. David Stevenson, appreciate it very much. The professor and me.
Thank you.
Join us next week when we're going to have more of this nonsense and really think about it. What else do you have to do? This is commercial free. You can come in here and hear what we have to say. Thank you, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you next week from 9 to 10 here where you always get the truth. What happened?